This is Jack Foley. I'm going to read you a few poems that Shajil Anthru has been kind enough to publish in his wonderful magazine, LITTERATEUR RW. These are all poems that he's published, though in one case it's a slightly different version, and in another case I'm going to read you a new poem. 2 May Poems. May Poem, 2014. In May, May told me she was born in June, which may or may not be true. May's name belies her month of birth. May I believe May? Maybe. Come what may, I'll have a May Day celebration with a Mayan who doesn't care in the least that my ancestors came over on the Mayflower. What do April showers bring? Pilgrims. Do they dance around the maypole in Mayotte? They may, and drink May wine, but hold the mayo. Ah, Maisie, my daisy, you drive me so crazy. I'll bring you some May. I may, though perhaps I mayn't. Have a May apple, May, though you were born in June. I'll love you come what may. Maybe. May 1st, 2021. May flowers, spring, Mayday, bona day, in the spring, in my age. Do you remember when women wore flowers in their hair? Mayday, bona day, in the spring, in my age. Will spring illuminate this age of mine? 5th month flowering. It may. For Chris Bernard upon his birthday, which, as it happens, is shared with Sigmund Freud. Chris, at our age may be the constantly surprised discovery that we have awakened to another day, so that hope is the opening of our eyes to the morning light streaming through the window. In his lapsed Catholicism, and perhaps thinking of Dante's Commedia, Eugene O'Neill remarked about Americans, "We are tragedy." Yet his great play, The Iceman Cometh, takes place in a saloon owned by a man named Hope, and revolves around the anxious expectation of the appearance of a man who will make everyone happy, though the man turns out to be a murderer. So many fictions, the Sherlock Holmes stories, The Great Gatsby, Stein's Four Saints, On the Road, revolve around a person who is closer to the real than we ourselves. The narrator is the bridge, the mediator between ourselves and that reality. We do not think of these stories as religious, yet the figure at the center has to be Christ, the one whose suffering reconnects us to reality. Narration brings us to him, the deeper consciousness at the heart of the world. What is art, if not the search for the real, however illusory, however fictional, however deceptive in its teasing, just around the corner, sudden appearance and disappearance, like Harry Lime, when he finally shows himself alive in The Third Man. This song, there are many songs about the South. I'm quoting one at the beginning of this poem. This poem is called If My Song. Irving Berlin wrote in 1930, "Let me sing of Dixie's charms, cotton fields and Mammy's arms, and if my song can make you homesick, I'm happy, I'm happy." What was there about the invented South, the South of the minstrel shows, that made it function as a stand-in for home? How many songs about the longing for the old folks at home? Was it Dan Emmett or Stephen Foster who began it? The man who wrote "Way Down Upon the Swanee River" and never been to the Suwannee River or seen Florida, though he had certainly been to minstrel shows. The songs say, "We have been away, but now we're going home." In the myth of the African American, generated by anyone but African Americans, the singer has left the South to go to the northern cities where, though no longer a slave, he is unhappy and longs for the authenticity of cotton fields and Mammy. I think these songs were about the white middle classes, the people that worked in the cities, in what Brecht called the net of the cities, and who were alienated from their bodies because of the tasks they performed. The story of the African Americans' supposed superiority in sexual awareness comes perhaps from the uneasiness of the white middle classes about their own bodies. They were a people fascinated by syncopation, by rhythm, by the St. Louis blues, by Gershwin, Waller, Leadbelly, Presley, by anything that could connect them back to their bodies, by anything that made their bodies move, sitting at a desk in a little cubicle. Where is the body located? These songs saw the South as body heaven, the embrace of Mammy, a healing return to the womb. This, they thought, was the great mistake at the heart of the city, a mistake which could be partially assuaged only by the body's fictional return to a false and racist place called home. No, Thomas Wolfe, a real Southerner, told them, "You can't go home again. If my song can make you homesick, I'm happy." Al Young died yesterday. Goodbye, dear, elegant man, wonderful poet. Your beautiful voice still rings in my ear from the long conversations. Goodbye, marvelous friend. There, another one. Death loves poets. John Oliver Simon, another one. Julia Vinograd, Death loves poets. Peter Sherborne Zimmer, there, still another. Jeffrey Lilly, Steps and Walks Made of Wind. And what of Larry Eigner, James Broughton, Maya Angelou, and Tazaki Shanga? What of David Bromwich, Lynn Lonadier, Robert Duncan, David Anton, Philomene Long, Leslie Scalapino, David Lerner, Joey Cook, Jack Michelin, Donald Schenker, H.D. Moe, Denise Levertov, Marcia Getzler, David Meltzer, Stanley McNeil, my wife Adele, Carolyn Kaiser, Hannah Block, Phil Whalen, Harold Norse, Allen Ginsberg, Lou Harrison, Paul Mariah, Adrienne Rich, Tom Clark, Michael McClure, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Ron Lowenson, James Chaville, Jack Mueller, Ron Johnson, Janine Cannon. So many. You can be sure death whispers sweet nothings in their ears until they are sweet nothings. We exist not as rocks or trees or garages. We are waves of the sea, shape-shifting at the will of something we will never know. At one moment, one thing, at another, another, and telling ourselves until the wind reminds us that we are constant, that we are unities, not the leaves not the scraps of wind-blown paper, not the flower petals that we are. When a poet dies, a great moan goes up in heaven as they all weep for the favored child, man, womankind, who gives them joy, exasperation, fear, as the child does, what a child does, acting blindly, making magic, tearing things apart, and yet listening to the words of a few like Al Young, harbingers of the possibility that woman mankind will yet do well, despite so many indications to the contrary. Dream, sound, blue, light, words found frequently in Al Young's work. How does one measure intellect? How does one measure heart? Words are doors, deeds are doors. The terms dream, sound, blue, light are a measure. Al Young is a thinking being, a political animal, zoion politikon, living in the polis, Berkeley. I see him there, measuring flowers, photographing dreams, looking to the blue sky, standing between the inner and the outer, speaking, sounding, dreaming, shedding light in the bright Berkeley dawn. That was for Al Young. This poem is a new poem, written quite recently, but a recollection of something that happened way back in 1956. Recollection on Mother's Day, 2021. One of the great experiences of my childhood was hearing Jason Robards Jr. recite Kipling's Mother O' Mine in the midst of Eugene O'Neill's long day's journey into night. I saw it in New York City when I was 16. Robards' drunken, ironic, magnificent recitation of Kipling's perfectly fine poem accompanies our perception of the mother in the play. Florence Eldridge, magnificent too, as Mary, addicted to morphine, unbelievably lost. All in my birth month, August, though 1912, not 1956. I suppose you're remembering that I promised before on my word of honor. The pity I felt for this immensely dysfunctional Catholic family, headed by the bitter, miserly, regretful James Tyrone, the great Frederick March, opened my heart to the suffering in my own family and to my own position of witness. Though I did not have a dope fiend for a mother, I had a woman whose intense love seemed at times to be clouded by unpredictability and even insanity. And like Tyrone's, my father's grand days in show business were long gone. Their family was my family, with certain important, unimportant similarities and differences. I was on that stage, witnessing myself, my mother, my father, and seeing through the rage and horror in my heart the pressing, significant need to enter another life. This is Jack Foley, and I've been reading some poetry for